with just a little bit of logical deduction, assuming this Quentin Tarantino Star Trek ever actually becomes a real thing, I am still extremely skeptical of that. But if it does, there's a few known facts that Tarantino has both said about what he would do when asked about Star Trek years before this ever started to pick up steam at the studio level, as well as things we know about his body of work that kind of show what it's going to be. So potentially, I'd give this a 60% chance of being accurate spoilers for a movie that might not even manifest. Fingers crossed. So anyway, I broke it down into 5 predictions, although the last one is more of a question. The first one is the easiest. In this interview, I know it's on YouTube if you want to look it up. I might find it and see if I can put it in the description, but I got to go to work in a little bit, so I don't know if I have time to be looking around through videos after this. Anyway, in the interview, he was asked what he would do with Star Trek, and what he said flat out is he would remake City on the Edge of Forever, which is a classic first season original series episode in which Kirk and Spock have to go back in time to stop McCoy from radically altering the timeline. I can see why that would appeal to Quentin Tarantino in many ways. Also appeal to the studio because it helped them cut the budget way down because they can film the vast bulk of it just in like regular Hollywood studio sets of the 1930s kind of stuff. Appeals to Tarantino's been on a historical movie kind of jag lately. Stuff like Inglourious Basterds and Django Unchained, and so on and so forth. Also, being set in the 1930s gives it that R-rated angle without having to make the Star Trek future suddenly full of cursing and hyperviolence. It's taking these noble future enlightened humans and exposing them to one of the worst periods in the early industrial age. And it's during Prohibition and stuff, and during the rise of communism and Nazism and stuff like that. I mean, there's a lot of things to play with. So yeah, my second prediction is that there's your R-rated angle. The third prediction, his disjointed storytelling style that he's had in all of his movies, pretty much, that I can think of. There's one of them, I guess maybe Reservoir. No, yeah, they've all been A, C, B, D, F, A, G kind of a way of structuring his chapters. And I think in a time travel movie, that actually can provide an interesting thing to play with where events going on in the future could be adjusted by things going on in the past kind of stuff. In the original episode, there wasn't a whole lot done with the Enterprise or the crew that was left behind on the planet's surface when the guys went through the time arc. And the movie, they'll need more time to fill. Also, I mean, by modern standards, City on the Edge of Forever is incredibly boring and slow-paced. And so they're going to have to compact a lot of that, and in which case they're going to have like an hour plus of material they need to pull from. And there's other Star Trek episodes that they can do that. And that's my fourth prediction. Specifically, a piece of the action with Oxmix. In that episode, the Star Trek crew comes across a planet that had patterned itself on human 1930s gangster civilization. And there's a bunch of competition over wanting Kirk to supply heaters and, phaser technology and stuff to the gangs and all the kind of gang warfare. And I can see a lot of that being easily lifted and put in this movie as something to have Kirk and Spock get involved in as they're trying to get to Edith Keeler and all that kind of stuff. Alternatively, there's also the Nazi episode. I can't remember the name of that one off the top of my head right now. Sorry about that. But they could lift a few plot elements from that too. Because they could have it set in Europe instead of having it be set in the United States. I want to say originally it was Chicago. Anyway, I would not be surprised if they managed to at least sneak the word heater in as a way for people of the era to describe the phasers. And now the fifth prediction, which is the question. And this is going to be controversial, but it's Tarantino, so we must ask this because this is another thing that's very evident from his body of work. Are we potentially going to have the very first Star Trek movie, or Star Trek anything, that has the N-word in it? Do we want that? Is that appropriate? And without just going out of their way to have Kirk and Spock witness something going on, to personalize it for the characters and therefore for the audience, I guess that's a sign, if they were to do that, that they might pull a little bit from Star Trek IV, A Voyage Home, and have more of the crew go back in time than just Kirk and Spock to find McCoy, and specifically include Uhura, but they can also have others. I mean, hey, it could be funny to see Sulu and Chekhov like stuck in like a 1930s underground gay bar. That would be fucking funny as hell. Anyway, those are my predictions for Tarantino Star Trek. Leave your thoughts down in the comments below. Like and subscribe. All that goodness. And talk to you later.